Welcome to Lesson 3E, Rigid Body Acceleration. In this lesson we'll define isobars, we'll derive the equation of motion for a fluid in rigid body acceleration, and we'll do an example problem. First of all, an isobar is a surface of constant pressure in a fluid. Iso means same, and bar means pressure, like barometer. So an isobar is a surface of constant pressure, although for some of you, bar may mean a place where you release some pressure. Let's look at an arbitrarily shaped container open to the atmosphere. Since this container is stationary, we have hydrostatics, and the isobars are all just flat horizontal surfaces. Let's let h be the depth from the surface. As you pass through isobars, in other words, as h increases, so does the pressure. Of course, in our notation, g is down and z is up. The free surface is an isobar, where p equal p atmosphere, or p gauge equals 0. Other isobars are parallel to the surface. This particular isobar at depth h has a pressure of p atmosphere plus rho gh, or a gauge pressure of rho gh. These isobars are only functions of elevation. They don't depend on anything horizontally. Notice also that these isobars are all perpendicular to g. Everything we've talked about so far is for a fluid at rest. Now let's consider a fluid in rigid body linear acceleration. Recall our little fluid element from a previous lesson where we had a weight body force and we analyzed the pressure forces on all these surfaces. Now let's suppose this whole fluid element is accelerating at some acceleration with a given direction and magnitude. We still take g as down. For statics, sigma f equals 0. With an acceleration, however, Newton's second law applies, sigma f equal ma. The sum of all the forces acting on this fluid element consists of gravity plus pressure forces, and this has to equal ma. Notice that this is a vector equation. Let's expand this out. The gravity term is rho g times the volume of the element. When we use a Taylor series expansion like we did previously, the pressure forces in three directions are del p del xi plus del p del yj plus del p del zk, again times the volume. The mass is rho times volume, and then we have our acceleration. dx dy dz, the volume of the element, occurs in each term and therefore cancels. And you should recall from your math class that this grouping of terms is the gradient of pressure. So our equation becomes rho g minus the gradient of p equal rho a. Let's rearrange it as gradient of p is rho g minus a. I'll call this equation 1. Recall for hydrostatics, the equation for hydrostatics reduces to gradient of p equal rho g. If we compare 1 and 2, g is replaced by g minus a. I'm going to call g minus a capital G. Capital G is a vector, which is the gravity minus the acceleration. Therefore, equation 1 becomes gradient of p equal rho capital G. When a equals 0, we get our hydrostatics equation, equation 2. When a is not 0, we just replace g with capital G, and we see that equations 2 and 3 are really the same, except that we have a modified gravity. Let's let g be a modified gravity vector for cases where the fluid is accelerating. Let's do an example. Suppose we have some container of liquid exposed to the atmosphere, and we're accelerating this chunk of liquid with some a. Gravity also acts downward, and our modified gravity is g minus a. We must add these vectorially. This is minus a. We complete the parallelogram, and this is our modified gravity vector, g minus a. Once we know the value of g, the modified gravity vector, we can see what happens to the liquid. The surface will tilt. The tilt will be perpendicular to capital G. Isobars will be parallel to the surface, just as they were for the statics case, each one perpendicular to capital G. Kind of a summary comparison when there's no acceleration. In statics, the surface is horizontal, and so are the isobars, all of them perpendicular to little g. For linear rigid body acceleration, a does not equal 0. The surface is tilted, and so are the isobars, but they're perpendicular to g, capital G in this case. This works for acceleration in any direction. You just have to vectorially add g and negative a to get capital G. Once you've identified what capital G is, it's the same as statics except with a different gravity vector. I like to pretend I'm on another planet where the gravity is not acting down, but in some inclined direction. Hey dude, that would be awesome if gravity were tilted, man. Now I'll show how we calculate the pressure. Let's redraw our accelerating tank of water, showing the free surface and the isobars. Let's define S as the distance from the free surface in the direction of capital G. S is the distance from the surface parallel to G. it's perpendicular to the isobars. Since each isobar represents an increased pressure, the maximum pressure is here at the left corner, for this case with our arbitrary acceleration. Recall our workhorse equation for hydrostatics, P below equal P above plus rho g times delta z absolute value. Here we replace g with capital G, our modified gravity on our other planet, and we replace z with s since s is parallel to g. So our equation becomes P below equal P above plus rho capital G absolute value of delta s. I put below and above in quotes because these are relative to capital G. Below means you're increasing in depth in the g direction, and above means you're going upward opposite to direction g. If you use my little trick of pretending you're on another planet, these problems become pretty much identical to hydrostatics, except for some trig to figure out what capital G is. Here's some qualitative examples. What if the acceleration is up, like in an elevator? A is up and G is down. Minus A is equal and opposite down. When we vectorially add little g and negative a, we get this modified gravity vector. The magnitude of capital G is larger than that of little g. By the way, that's why you feel heavier in an elevator that is accelerating upward. When the elevator is accelerating down, you feel lighter. In this case, the isobars are still horizontal. At the bottom of the tank, the pressure is P atmosphere plus rho capital GH, where H is the depth of the fluid. You can see that this pressure is greater than it would be for the hydrostatics case, when the only difference is we have a little g instead of a capital G. What about when the acceleration is horizontal, to the right or left? This would be like one of those cool elevators in the Star Trek Enterprise that go sideways as well as up and down. Suppose A is to the right and G is down, negative A is to the left, and capital G is again little g minus A. The surface will tilt perpendicular to our modified gravity vector G, and the isobars will be parallel to the surface. Again, in this case, the maximum pressure point is on the lower left. I'll do a demonstration with the jar of oil. Here's a slow motion video clip of me accelerating some oil in a jar. I'll show it again. I'll stop it here. You can see the slope of the oil. And you can see that the oil is tilted the opposite way when I decelerate. Here are two frames from the slow motion video. When I was accelerating the jar to the left, the free surface tilted, just as we would predict. Capital G would be acting perpendicular to the free surface. Later on, I decelerated. Deceleration to the left is the same as acceleration to the right, and the surface tilted the other way, again with G acting perpendicular. One final note here, the shape of the container does not matter. Suppose we have some weird shaped container, partially filled with a liquid. If we now accelerate with the same acceleration as here, the surface will incline, just as in the case to the left. Capital G is again perpendicular to the surface. Even though there's no surface in the middle here, this imaginary surface continues smoothly. So do the isobars. Imagine the isobars going right through this region smoothly, even though there's no liquid there. In fact, if you took out this weird section and just had a vase-shaped object, nothing would change. These isobars would just continue the whole way across. Now let's do an example problem. A rectangular container has some oil in it. We give these dimensions, and it's accelerating to the right. We want to compare the gauge pressure and kPa at the lower left corner when the fluid is at rest and when it's accelerating to the right. I'll call this point A. When the fluid is at rest, the gauge pressure is just rho GB, where B is the depth of the liquid. This is just a review of previous lessons in hydrostatics. PGA rest is thus the density times little g times B, a unity conversion factor, and another unity conversion factor. We get 1.01 kPa to 3 digits. For convenience, I'm going to combine these two unity conversion factors into one for later use. We get kPa seconds squared meter over 1,000 kilogram as the combination of these two. Now let's look at the accelerating case. A is to the right and G is down. Negative A is to the left and capital G is to the lower left. Let's call this angle theta. If this is the original free surface at rest, the surface will tilt when it's accelerated such that the surface is perpendicular to G. This angle is also theta, and this distance will be C over 2, halfway across. Let's let the surface rise on the left be delta Z. How do we calculate the pressure at point A, which is the maximum pressure? Well, we have to calculate this distance S from the free surface parallel to G down to A. But that's not necessarily from the center, so we need to do a little bit of trig. In terms of theta, tangent theta is delta Z over C over 2. From this diagram on the right, we also see that tangent theta is a over g. You can take the arctangent and find theta if you want, but I'll show you that it's not really necessary to do that. We do need to calculate the magnitude of g. Capital G is just a squared plus g squared square root. When you plug in the numbers, you get 10.4434 meter per second squared. Combining these two equations for tangent theta, delta z is c tangent theta over 2, or ca over 2g. The gauge pressure at point A for the accelerating case is rho g times this distance s. So now we need to use some trig to get s. Since this is the original height of the liquid, this height is b, and this full distance here is b plus delta z. This angle is also theta, so s equal b plus delta z cosine theta. But from our diagram, cosine theta is this little g over capital G. Therefore, s equal b plus delta z, little g over big G. And plugging in delta z from here, we get s equal b plus ca over 2g, g over capital G. And the gauge pressure at A for this accelerating case becomes rho times capital G times s, but the g cancels out, and we do a little bit more algebra to get this expression. This is our answer in variable form. Although we calculated capital G, if you stay in variables it drops out and we never really need capital G to get our answer. This is one of the reasons why it's always good to stay in variable form as much as possible. Now we can plug in our numbers. PGA for the accelerating case is the density times the quantity, B times G plus C times A over 2, close bracket. And for convenience, let's use our combined unity conversion factor from above, kPa second squared meter per 1,000 kilogram. You can verify that all the units cancel except kPa. To 3 digits, our final answer is 1.14 kPa. Comparing to the hydrostatic case, it's higher. It's larger than PGA rest for 2 reasons. S is greater than B, and capital G is greater than G. So other than some additional trig, these rigid body acceleration cases are not that much more difficult than hydrostatic cases. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel for more videos.